Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. It started with a quiet hesitation I couldn't ignore. When I first married Arif, I thought I knew what love meant. I thought I understood what it meant to build a life with someone. But the truth? I wasn't sure about it at all. Not because he was a bad man. No, he was gentle, respectful, and he always made sure I was okay. It was just, something was missing. Or maybe I was just afraid to open my heart completely. You know that feeling when someone gives you everything, but you still can't find it in yourself to accept it fully? That was me. Smiling in photos. Laughing at family dinners. But deep inside, I was unsure. He never forced anything. He waited. Patiently. Almost like he knew I was still learning to trust. Still learning to believe that love didn't have to hurt or be hard. We were friends more than anything in the beginning. A soft friendship. Warm. Simple. Comforting. Like your favorite blanket on a cold evening. We'd talk for hours, about random things, memories from our childhoods, dreams we were too shy to share with anyone else. Yet, every night, I'd lay next to him and wonder, is this what love is supposed to feel like? Then something happened. One evening, after a long day, I came home to find him in the kitchen. He'd made dinner, my favorite, of course, and the lights were dimmed just enough to make the room glow. Soft music played in the background. Nothing dramatic. Just peaceful. He didn't say much. Just smiled and handed me a plate, and for some reason, that moment broke something inside me. Or maybe it healed something. I watched him move around the kitchen, so effortlessly kind, and I realized I'd been looking for some grand sign, some movie-like romance, when all along, love was standing right there, cooking rice and lentils. Still, a part of me resisted. I pulled back, and he noticed. That night, he sat beside me and finally asked, "Do you trust me enough to fall, just a little?" The way he said it, so softly, like he wasn't asking me to give everything, just a little piece of myself, I felt something shift. But instead of answering, I looked away. I didn't know what to say. Because yes, a part of me wanted to fall. But another part was still afraid of crashing. And then he did something unexpected. He stopped trying. He gave me space. No more sweet gestures. No late-night talks. He became quiet. Friendly, still, but distant. And that hurt more than I ever imagined. I missed him. His presence. His softness. And that's when I knew, I wasn't unsure because of him. I was unsure because I didn't believe I deserved a love that gentle. But by the time I realized it, I wasn't sure if he was still waiting. That silence between us grew louder with each passing day. Arif didn't pull away completely. He was still kind, still polite, but the warmth in his eyes, the one that used to make my heart slow down and feel safe, had faded. We still shared the same space, same routines, but something in his presence had shifted. He no longer lingered in the kitchen after dinner. No longer waited for me to start a conversation. And I hated how much I noticed it. How deeply I missed something I never admitted I loved. I started wondering if I had ruined everything. Maybe he'd finally gotten tired of waiting. Maybe he figured I'd never open up the way he wanted me to. Or worse, maybe he was done trying. And the scariest part? I couldn't blame him. Sometimes at night, I'd wake up and find him sleeping peacefully beside me. His back turned, one hand resting near mine but never touching. And I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering if I had let go of the one thing I didn't even realize I needed. My mind would replay all those moments I'd brushed off, the quiet care, the little things he did without expecting anything in return. And I'd ask myself, why was I so afraid of being loved like that? We'd still talk, of course, but the conversations felt different. Lighter. Like we were two friends catching up rather than a husband and wife building a life together. He never brought up the night he asked me if I was ready to fall. And I never had the courage to bring it up either. Then, one Sunday morning, I saw him sitting on the balcony, a coffee in hand, staring at nothing. Something about the way his shoulders slumped forward made my chest ache. He looked tired. Not physically, but emotionally. Like a man who had carried something heavy for far too long. I stood behind the curtain, watching him. Wanting to go out. Wanting to say something. But I didn't. Because even then, I wasn't sure if I was too late. That morning, watching Arav sit so quietly on the balcony, something inside me began to shift. I kept thinking about how I used to complain that he never challenged me emotionally, never stirred the kind of storm I thought love was supposed to bring. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe love wasn't always chaos and passion. Maybe it was also stillness, presence, the ability to be there when it mattered, even when the other person didn't know how to ask for it. Later that day, he came back inside, his face calm, unreadable. I tried to catch his eye, to maybe say something, anything, but I froze. We moved around each other like shadows. He made himself breakfast. I folded laundry. And in the middle of it all, there was this silence that said everything we weren't brave enough to speak out loud. Over the next few days, I noticed something else. He had started talking more to Neha, our neighbor from 2 floors down. She was sweet, always friendly, and never crossed any lines. But I could tell she made him laugh. And seeing that smile I used to love on his face, just not because of me, it stung more than I expected. Was I really letting someone else step into the space I wasn't sure how to hold? One evening, I overheard them laughing in the hallway. It wasn't flirty. It wasn't wrong. But it made me realize just how much I had been taking him for granted. I was so afraid to let myself feel too much that I forgot feelings don't wait forever. And Arav? He had waited long enough. That night, I tried to talk to him. I asked how work was, made small conversation, hoping he'd notice the effort. He smiled politely. Answered my questions. But his voice didn't carry the same warmth. He felt distant. Friendly, still. But no longer close. And I couldn't help but wonder, had I finally built the walls too high for even him to climb? In moments like that, you start questioning everything. Could I have done something differently? Should I have opened up sooner? Or was this slow drift between us something that had been waiting to happen all along? That night, after hearing their laughter in the hallway, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Arav's steady breathing beside me like a quiet reminder of everything slipping through my fingers. I wanted to turn toward him, to say something that would stop this silent distance from growing further, but I didn't know what to say that wouldn't sound too late. The next morning, I noticed his suitcase in the corner of the room. Not packed. Not even open. But just sitting there. Waiting, maybe. Or warning. A quiet message I wasn't ready to hear. He moved around the room like normal, calm, composed, but his silence had weight now. The kind that says more than words ever could. Later that evening, I saw him talking to Neha again. This time at the gate. Her hand briefly touched his arm as they laughed. Nothing inappropriate. But enough to make something twist inside me. For the first time in a long time, I felt fear, not just of losing him, but of realizing I may have already lost him. I wanted to talk to him, to tell him I was ready, that I finally understood the love he had offered me all this time. But when he walked into the apartment that night, something about him felt different. Like he had made a decision. He didn't look angry. Or distant. Just quiet. Almost peaceful. And that scared me more than anything else. Over dinner, I tried again. You seem quiet these days, I said softly. He looked at me, his eyes steady but unreadable. Am I? He replied. And that was it. No confrontation. No questions. Just that one line. I nodded, unsure if I should say more. My heart was pounding, my mind running in circles. Was he waiting for me to say something? Or was this his way of saying goodbye without saying it? And then, just before bed, he finally spoke again. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice calm but serious. "Maybe it's time we both ask ourselves what we really want." My breath caught in my throat. I sat there, frozen. Maybe it's time we both ask ourselves what we really want. His words played over and over in my mind like an echo that wouldn't fade. Arif didn't say it with anger or bitterness. He was calm. Too calm. And that calm scared me more than a fight ever could. It felt like someone slowly closing a door, not slamming it, but locking it gently, finally. I wanted to speak, to say, "I know what I want, it's you." But my lips stayed shut. I wasn't used to being this open, this vulnerable. And he wasn't waiting anymore. That was clear now. He stood up, walked into the other room, and left me with the silence I had created. The next day, something unexpected happened. I was heading down the stairs when I overheard Neha talking on the phone in the lobby. Her voice was hushed but tense. I didn't mean to listen, but a few words caught me off guard. "He doesn't even know yet. I didn't plan for this. It just happened." It was about Arif. I felt it in my gut. That moment flipped everything upside down. What did she mean? Was there something going on I didn't know about? Had he moved on already, emotionally if not physically? Or was I twisting something innocent into something bigger, because of my guilt and fear? I started watching them more closely. Every glance, every smile, every small exchange. And the more I watched, the more I realized how far I had pushed him away. Maybe Neha wasn't the problem. Maybe I had left that space empty long before she stepped into it. But then came another shock. Later that evening, Arif handed me an envelope. No words. Just a look, gentle, unreadable. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter. Not about leaving me. Not about giving up. But about a job offer, abroad. One he had turned down months ago. But now, he was considering it again. Alone. "I never wanted to go without you," he wrote. "But I also can't stay in a space that feels like I don't exist anymore." My hands trembled. It wasn't about Neha. It was never about someone else. It was about everything we had stopped saying to each other. Everything I had kept locked away, thinking he'd wait forever. The question now wasn't just if I still loved him. It was whether I was too late to make him believe it. I stood there for what felt like forever, that letter trembling in my hands. My heart raced, not from fear, but from the sudden clarity that hit me like a wave. He hadn't left me. Not yet. He was giving me one last chance to decide if I wanted this marriage to survive. All those quiet moments, all the silence between us, they weren't rejections. They were him waiting. One last time. I walked into the living room where Arif sat quietly, his eyes on his phone, unreadable as ever. He looked up, calmly, like he already knew I had read the letter. My voice came out shaky but sure. "Don't go." He didn't respond at first. Just stared at me, like he was measuring the weight of those two words. "Please," I added. "I don't want you to leave." I was scared, but not of you. I was scared of how deeply I felt this, and how real it was. I just didn't know how to show it. For a moment, nothing. And then, his expression softened. Slowly, he stood up and walked over to me. "I wasn't asking you to be perfect," he said, voice low and honest. "I just wanted to feel like I mattered to you. That we were in this together." I nodded through tears. "You do. You always have. I just never told you, because I thought I'd mess it up." He took my hands in his, and something in the air shifted. All the tension, the fear, the distance, it cracked open, and for the first time in months, I felt like we were finally standing in the same place again. But just when I thought we had finally made it, the doorbell rang. Arif stepped back, confused. I wiped my tears, still caught in the moment. He opened the door, and there stood Neha, holding something small in her hand. Her eyes were red. her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry," she said, "I didn't know where else to go. I thought I might be pregnant." The air turned cold. Ariv's hand slowly fell to his side. I couldn't breathe. My heart stopped. And in that instant, everything changed again. For a moment, the room stood still. Neha's words hung in the air like a thunderstorm about to break. Ariv didn't move. I couldn't look at her, I couldn't even think. My mind was racing with everything that had just happened, everything we had finally said to each other, and now, this. But deep down, something in me told me to breathe. Don't jump. Don't assume. Ariv turned to me, his expression unreadable, but I could see the shock in his eyes too. He looked back at Neha and gently asked, "What do you mean?" Neha looked embarrassed. I missed a cycle. I don't even know for sure yet. And I have no one else to talk to. I swear, nothing ever happened between us, Ariv. We're just neighbors. I just panicked. I exhaled, my chest rising and falling too fast. And just like that, the moment cracked again, this time, not from betrayal, but from misunderstanding. Ariv stepped aside and let her sit. I quietly walked to the kitchen, more to give her space than anything else. But in my heart, I already knew. I believed him. Later that night, after Neha had left and everything had calmed down, Ariv sat beside me on the couch. "I would never betray you," he said quietly. "Even when we were distant. I never stopped loving you." I nodded. "I know. And I think that was the problem. I didn't think I deserved it. But I do now. I want this. I want us." From that day on, things didn't magically fix themselves, but they changed. Slowly, we rebuilt the trust, not just through words but through action. We went on quiet walks, cooked together again, had real conversations, not just about groceries or bills, but about fears, dreams, everything in between. We learned how to hold space for each other's silence and not take it as distance. Neha later found out it was a false alarm. She moved back to her parents' home for a while, and though things never turned awkward, the boundaries were now clear. Ariv and I had faced something raw and real, and it had broken something inside us, only to build something stronger in its place. Love isn't always a dramatic kiss in the rain. Sometimes, it's about staying. Choosing. Even when things are messy and uncertain. And that's what Ariv and I finally learned. We didn't just fall in love. We fought for it. What do you think of the ending? Would you have reacted the same way in my place? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to see a sequel to our journey, tell me. I'd love to continue this story with you.